close with the seasons. In April, when the weather warms, that's when we do a refresh of the garden, the patio, and also the clothes. That's when I swap out the summer clothes for the winter clothes. And then in May, that's when I focus on the garden. You can't really put summer garden in until after Mother's Day here. So May is garden plus laundry and food supply, food storage area. And then June is the garden and the guest bedroom and bathroom. July is the garden and the garage. August is the garden, and that's all I do is harvest food. And September are windows and clothes. We swap out the summer clothes and bring out the winter clothes. And then October is the garden and the dining room. And I think most of you know that my dining room, I have a china cabinet with china and linens and things. And then I have a china cabinet that like a buffet that is filled with art supplies. And then November is kitchen cabinets and pantry, and December is my office. And so it doesn't feel like overwhelming or insurmountable that I'm trying to do too much in a month. And usually these projects take anywhere between 3 to 6 hours. Does that sort of make sense to you? Like, these aren't big projects for me anymore because I've got systems in place for all of them. Oh, okay. Now, the other thing you should know, and I think this has made my decluttering and organizing and systems a little easier than maybe some of you. Libby, I'm looking at you on this one. I have moved 30 times in my 67 years, right? So now we've been in this house. We moved here 4.5 years ago. The house before that was 13 years, which was the longest I'd ever lived any place. And then, shorter and shorter time periods as we go back. But when we moved here, we downsized by half so that we would not have so much to maintain. So I have a 1,500 square foot home. If you have a larger home, you're going to spend more time than I do on these monthly tasks. Does that make sense to all of you? Because every item that's in your space needs something from you. If you're going to keep it, if you're going to buy it, bring it home and keep it on an annual basis, it's going to need something from you. It's going to need to be cleaned or looked at or handled in some way. And so if you have a bigger space, if your space is twice the size of mine, then maybe it's twice the amount of time. Now, the other thing is I hire a cleaning professional to come in. When I wrote this, it was once a month. But as of last month, it's become twice a month, just because I'm so busy with work. And it's easier for me to pay someone well to do that job, and I don't even have to worry about it. And my husband takes care of the lawn and much of the upkeep and maintenance of our home systems. And I always acknowledge this, like, this is not something I ever take for granted. I have been a single mom with 5 kids. I do not take this for granted. So at least once a year, you are going to want to review and edit all of your systems. You can do it, you can spend like 1 month doing all your systems, or you can do it like the way I just described. I also recommend that you, at least twice a year, you give your home a deep clean. floors, rugs, fabrics, windows, window sills, window treatments, doors, walls, and each unit of storage at least twice a year. I love doing this in the spring and fall because I feel a beautiful connection to my grandmothers and my great-grandmothers and all the way of my maternal lineage, all the way back to ancient times, because this is what was done. So I always thank my maternal lineage while I'm doing that. Now, the last thing I want to share with you, and then we'll take questions, is as we mature, our body changes. Our hair color changes. My hair used to be bright red. So every decade since my 20s, I've received a wardrobe consultation to ensure that the color, the jewelry, the style that I'm currently wearing is aligned with my current skin tone and texture and my natural hair color. And I did an interview that's on my blog with an image consultant named Denise Lampron, who works only with the mature audience. She's got some fantastic tips for you. So I just wanted to share that. So any questions about what we've covered tonight or anything in your home with your projects that you would like some help with? Wave your hand at me or put up your digital hand if you have a question. Starfire.
All I wanted to say was one of the things that grandmother Ruth Ann taught me is on the new moon and the full moon to always clean my linens so that I know like when I'm doing that. So everything in my lake that's out gets washed at least the full moon and the new moon, because then I know when I done it. And then on the equinox and the solstice and that kind of right, this is when I make sure that my hot tub is I've done, you know, I've emptied out the hot tub, scrubbed it down and that kind of thing, because the more we can get into relationship with the wheel of the year, that kind of thing, the better. Well, it makes everything zoom. So I just wanted to share that little piece because it's just made sacred space up a notch. So
I love that. Yes, aligning your 2 deep cleanings to the vernal and autumnal equinox is a great idea. Yeah. And I mean, I do my linens usually weekly, but my husband was so shocked when he married me because his mother only did it monthly. So however, however you do it, like tagging it to something in the natural world, the natural rhythms. I love that idea, Starfire. Thank you. Any other questions, suggestions? Bonnie Marie.
Mute here. So something I've noticed that I have really come to appreciate is that I will set an intent or goal or a plan, carve it out, and I find myself doing something else with absolute rigor and excitement, and there I am. It catches me, I just go for it. There is something in me that just happens, right? And sometimes it's like, why am I doing that? I really should be doing this, but the energy is all there. So I have to give a lot of trust to the universe, I don't even know where it comes from. I just know that when I get the most done and it is like complete and I am focused and I love doing it, is when it was not in my plans.
Mm.
And it's the weirdest thing. Like all certain things I have to do, I spend exorbitant amount of time on my diet, eating, cooking, cleaning, the food,
Right.
because I'm on a very stringent diet. So I feel like that is a priority. And I'm with you on technology. I'm terrible. Like I'm thousands of emails behind. It's like, I don't care. I take my walk, right? But then there's this force that comes over me that has nothing to do with anything on my list.
So I do want to speak to that, because some of us in our astrology blueprint, and we can also see this in the system that comes from Asia, the feng shui of the birth date system. Some of us are really wired to function best when we don't have confines or structure. And we want to have the freedom to flow. Like you think about the stream flowing down from the mountain, we want to have that freedom to flow. And so, and I am one of those people. And it's like watching a child in a Montessori classroom. If you sat him down and said, okay, we're going to learn a math concept, he might not be able to hold your focus for 2 minutes, but you sit him in front of this piece of equipment he's curious about, and he will play with that for an hour. So it's like this beautiful focus comes over us when we're in the flow. And what I will say is I will still ask you to schedule the blocks of time in your calendar. And if you've already been in the flow and done your project, yay. But I would still ask you to do it, because otherwise I'm afraid for many of us, our projects, just things will get unhandled. So for those of you who, and Mary, I'm looking at you for this, because you're one of these real creatives that I feel like is like me and like Bonnie Marie in this, where you really can get into an artistic creative flow and just things happen. And all of a sudden, this big, huge project is done in a matter of days. And I would say still keep it on your schedule. Have I talked about the gallbladder? Was it gallbladder? No, kidney. Have I talked about the kidney stones thing yet?
Oh,
Well, this is a very strange analogy, but I had a contract employee once who was having terrible pain with kidney stones. And it would just overtake him. And he would have to be lying down on the floor in the office, just writhing in pain. And of course, these things just attack you. You don't know when they're going to come. But I asked him to schedule them, these kidney stone pain attacks. I asked him to put in his schedule 3 per workday. And he looked at me like I was insane. And I said, Marshall, I realize that these are going to come when they're going to come, and we're not going to know when they're going to come. But if you've scheduled 3 half-hour sessions on the floor, breathing through the pain, which is worse than childbirth, I hear, then if it comes early, you're going to say, oh, it's here early, and you're going to breathe through it. And then you'll have a free half hour whenever it was you scheduled it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any kind of logical sense to schedule kidney stone pain. But when you're dealing with it, it does make a kind of sense to put that on your calendar, so that you don't just consider yourself at the end of the day a failure because you didn't get everything done. So anyway, in a similar vein, on the other side of the spectrum, like the joyful side of the spectrum, I want you to still have your chunks of time that you can say, well, I don't need to do it then because I did it already. And then you can take it off when you had it scheduled. But yeah, so I would still say, keep your calendars dates on the calendar. Any other questions or suggestions or comments? So we have gone a little over time. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm going to stop the recording, or actually, Christine, I think you have to stop the recording.